So as the Yankees wrapped up a weather-shortened 3-game set with Boston and head to Toronto for the first time this year, let's talk about some things the Yankees could be focusing on in the coming weeks.
Yes, we're talking about a couple things that we've seen that could happen in the future. We're talking about the opener, some potential additions to the rotation, and the return of a lot of the injured players.
That's right. There's a lot to cover in this episode. We're going to try and do it quickly. Our last episode ran too long. So sit back and enjoy because you will not want to miss any part of this conversation. So here we are.
Brad McCormick, Greg Andriano. Moving on.
That's right. Episode 20. So about a month ago, I wrote an article on the Yankee Chatter about where players are placed in the batting order when they return from injury, and this has kind of been my big rant the last couple months, it seems. Brad can surely attest to that, and I just want to say that, that's all I have to say. Yep.
Nothing for me.
So let's start when Gary came back. He missed about a couple weeks of time due to injury, 12 days to be precise. Took him three games when he returned to register a hit, and in that time he was batting cleanup. Now, my beef is a player technically ready to be in a high leverage position? And when I say high leverage position in the batting order, I mean 1 through 4. 1 through 4. Those are the high leverage positions to me. So if a player misses time, significant amount of time, and then they come back to playing, should they be thrown back into those spots in the batting order? I don't think so. I don't think their timing is there. I don't think they made the proper adjustments that they would have been made if they were to have been playing regularly up and through the injury. So no. Another example of this is Aaron Hicks. He's currently going through this struggle right now. He's been back for 16 games. I think he had a home run tonight, but he's only hitting like 200, and he's not back yet. He's not the Aaron Hicks that we all know. Now, I'm not saying these guys come back from their injury and bench them or bat them at the bottom of the order permanently or whatever. I'm saying give them a couple extra games, let them get their bearings, let them get their timing down, and get back to the player that we know them to be, then put them back in those positions in the lineup. I don't have to go read through all this. I know I have an essay written here, but no, that's pretty much my point. And it seems like the Yankees do this with every player that comes back from injury. And I'm sure they're going to do it with Aaron Judge. I'm sure they're going to do it with Stanton when they come back, because they're going to put him right back in the 2 and 3 hole in the batting order. And it just doesn't make sense to me. And maybe I'm crazy, Brad. Maybe I'm not. What is your take on this nonsense?
I love it. I love when you can either agree to disagree. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to agree to disagree because, my stance on this. I think a player is who he is when he comes back. You're not going to make a starting pitcher be a reliever when he comes back. You're not going to make a closer into a 7th inning guy when he comes back. It's just you put them where they're capable of being. I think, okay, maybe not bat him leadoff. I get that to an extent because you're only really leading off one time of the game. But that's the thing. Like you say, high leverage is 1 through 4, but not the 1 through 4 may not be coming up in the most high leverage parts of the game, which is why batting orders in general. It's a whole other conversation. I mean, people go crazy with batting orders, like who's batting leadoff, but they're really batting leadoff one time a game. But I think a guy is who he is. So when, like you said, when Judge comes back, you bat him second. Torres got hurt and was out for 2-3 weeks. He comes back, you put him back at 5th, and that's just me. I understand where you're coming from, though, Greg. I understand that when a guy's trying to get his timing and swing back, you might not want to put him as high up in the lineup where your best hitters are supposed to be playing.
Right. And
my point is, you put him down in the lineup, everyone else in that lineup has to move up, and now you've got guys you don't want them to be anyway. So. Right.
So. Really, this isn't, and I get where you're coming from, and it completely makes sense. But I think you're saying the player who he is, but he's not. He comes back from injury. He plays 2-3 rehab games only to be cleared to play.
Well, he is not the same. Problem. I think the problem is they're not rehabbing him enough to rush him back.
So that could be a potential solution. But the other thing is he's a player. He is who he is, but he's not. He's also affecting the batters that hit around him, typically. So you put Hicks in batting third, and he typically has and we'll say everybody's healthy in this instance. He's batting third, and you have Judge and Stanton batting around him in this example. Well, he's not the same Hicks if he was fully healthy. So you get Judge and everyone on and ahead of him, and you're not getting the same Aaron Hicks that you would if he was fully healthy, where he might work a count and then hit a double. Instead, you're getting Aaron Hicks where his timing's not quite there, so he'll still work the count full and get the pitcher throwing pitches, but he might ground out to second, or he might, because his timing's not fully there. So he's not 100% the same player if he was when he was fully healthy. That's the only thing I'm saying. You're hurting the players around you. So if you put them in the bottom of the order and you keep players that have been producing, like a Gio Urshela or like Gleyber Torres, and you move them up in the order a little bit and have them around the other guys that have been producing, then that's your meat of the order, and you're not hurting the meat of your order. That's my whole point.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like I said, it's a valid point, and you want them. You almost kind of like you're saying. You want them to bat lower and lineup and prove their way back up to where they should be. Is that what you're saying?
I don't want to say prove because they're proven hitters. They're proven ball players. I want them to be back in the major league lineup because they are capable of hitting well, and they could right off the rip be a productive hitter. But 9 times out of 10, they're not going to be. So I want them in the lineup. I want them in a spot in the lineup where they can get their working, get their adjustments made, and get back to that player that we know them to be, not to necessarily prove them, but just to like get reacquainted with being in the lineup every day and facing major league pitching. Because you can go down to the minor leagues and face AAA pitchers 5 days in a row, and then you come into the major leagues and they're going to be completely different levels of pitching, completely different pitching. Yeah. And you could hit 300 in those minor league at bats, and then come back and face Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, and Patrick Corbin. They're completely on a different level than any AAA pitcher you're going to face. So to me, batting him in the bottom of the lineup and getting him those reps and getting him reacquainted with major league pitching is more the task at hand here, as opposed to just throwing him back into the fire.
I think there's just got to be a better way of handling that. I just don't think that you can sit when you're making out your batting order, say, okay, well, so-and-so's probably only going to go for 1 for 4, maybe 0 for 3 today. I don't know. Let's just put him down at the bottom of the lineup and let's wait until he starts getting a couple hits a game to bring him up. I just don't think it's the way to handle it, especially at the major level. I think if they feel you're good enough to brought up to the major league team, then you should be the guy that they know you are, and they should be able to play you where you were being played before. That's my opinion.
And I completely agree with that. But that's not the case, is it? Right? They bring these guys, I think, way too prematurely.
I don't know if it's all organizations or what, but Yankees definitely.
I don't pay attention to the other ones, unfortunately, but I noticed with the Yankees, as soon as they're healthy enough to play, they bring them up to the major leagues and they throw them right in. And I think that's the problem. And I think this is where we will agree on this, is that they either need to stay in AAA longer, get their routine back, get used to playing every day again, and then be brought up to the major leagues. That I would be more comfortable with than just a 2-game rehab stint and immediately thrown, because they don't have their timing back. Get them playing regularly again. I'm not saying a month. I'm saying maybe like 10 games, like they're doing with Didi. I think they're handling Didi the right way.
Even Aaron Hicks had to tell the Yankees, I need more reps in the minor leagues, because they wanted to bring him up earlier and he was actually brought up. In the end, it didn't matter because a couple games got rained out for him in Wilkes-Barre, but he wanted more reps in the minor leagues. I think that's but this is one thing we are agreeing on, is that they need more reps before they come back up.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing with Hicks, is that he got injured in spring training, so he missed pretty much the entire spring training and 40-something games in the major league season. So right now he's still in his spring training. He's still figuring out where he is. So for him, I think this most definitely applies, is that he was brought back way too soon. I think he should still be in AAA with Didi and getting his swing right before they rushed him back, because the Yankees are doing just fine without him. If the Yankees are struggling, it might be a different conversation. But the fact that they're in first place and they're doing well without him, you can afford to give him a little more cushion.
All right, in the interest of time, let's
so that's all I have to say about that.
If anyone's listening or wants to chime in, we'd actually love to we should get other people's opinions on this matter. So
yeah.
If you want to let us know what you think, that'd be great. Let's move on to Greg's other boiling point, and that's the opener.
I'll let you talk about this more, because you actually are more for this than I am. But go on.
Well, I don't know if I'm for the opener or if I'm for I'm just not against it. Like, I don't really. When it first started the opener, I didn't really understand it. Like, what was the point of having a guy pitch one inning and then putting the starter in? It didn't really make much sense to me. But then I got people start explaining, like, it's analytics. They show the third time through a lineup, so they hit you more. So maybe you should only face that lineup twice. But anyways, let's get into the details here. As of today, the Yankees are 3-0 when using the opener. The trends continuing to gain momentum around the baseball. The Yankees have adopted a strategy due to the number of injuries in their rotation so far this season. Notably, the lengthy injury to Severino, Paxton, and Loizaga. And you could probably put in Happ and Montgomery and all those guys. Either way, or not Happ, Sabathia. There's been a lot of injuries around the rotation. Severino hasn't pitched yet for the All-Star game, maybe before. James Paxton's returned from the injured list last week. He looked great against the Padres, but he's just coming back. Loizaga has been the first man called up in the event of an injury, but he's been sidelined, shut down until May 14th. And this also includes, like as I suggested, or as I stated about CC Sabathia and Tanaka, that they've each missed one start. So the Yankees have had injuries, and this is why I'm okay with it. See, with the Yankees, I don't know it's not really an opener as much as it is a bullpen day. So, see, to me, opener is when you have your starter, like say Paxton was going to pitch, but you don't have Paxton come into the second inning or third inning. That I don't get. That's the opener thing that the Rays did, and I just don't really understand that. I don't like it. I think baseball is, when you look at the paper and you see what teams playing, you see this pitcher versus this pitcher. It's how it's always been and how it's always should been. I'm for bullpen days. I get that you're running the risk of one of the 5 relievers not having it that day and giving up runs. But to me, multiple pitchers trying to get through 2 innings is just as good as one pitcher trying to get through 7 innings. So that is why I've always been okay with the bullpen. I've always said, my view. I've always wanted 3 starters pitching 3 innings each day, because if you can't get through 3 innings, then you shouldn't be a pitcher anyway in the major leagues, if you ask me. So that's my view on it. I'm okay for bullpen days. I don't get the opener, but I'm okay with them using it. If this is what you want to call openers.
All right, so that kind of derails that whole conversation a little bit, because I thought you were going to talk more about the opener, but that's okay, because you have kind of reaffirmed how I feel about it, in the sense that if you have to do a bullpen day, call it a bullpen day. Don't call it an opener. I think that's what gets everybody aggravated, is that the fact that they're calling it an opener. It makes you think that they're doing one thing when they're really not. And you really only need to have those when half your rotation's hurt. And you can't have
ruin the whole segment. I ruined the whole segment, didn't I?
No, it's fine. It's fine because you pretty much said what I was going to say, in the sense that, bullpen days are only a necessity out of injury, right? The Yankees are not built that way. The Yankees are not built to be openers. They have a full rotation. So for them to rely on the opener, this is what bothers me, is that if they were to rely on the opener during these bouts of injuries, that's where they don't flourish, because that's not how they're built. That's not the team they are.
I would never want the Yankees to do with Oakland in the wild card game.
No,
that was just stupid.
You want half of New York to have a stroke. Have them start an opener in a winner take all wild card game. But no, the fact that you said what you said definitely reaffirms how I feel about it, is that you only do it out of necessity. In an injury, can't rely on it as a means to carry rotation, because there's just too many moving parts with an opener. Like you said, you're risking the fact that one of those relievers might not have it that day. But then again, you're kind of doing that in a rotation where your starter only gives you 5 innings and you have 4 relievers close out the game. One of those guys might not have it that day. But at least you're getting it out of the way early, whereas opposed where you might have a 3-run lead and you might blow the lead. So I guess I kind of am talking my way into seeing the advantages to it. But for the Yankees specifically, they are not built to have an opener. They are a starting rotation team, and if they have to rely on it, it's solely out of necessity due to injury, not as a means of carrying a rotation through the entire season.
I don't see them ever starting a bullpen guy when they have one of their regular rotation guys pitching.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tampa does. Like Tampa had Snell pitch last year, but he'd come in the second or third inning.
Yeah, that's dumb. That's dumb. So Chad Green's been the guy that has been the opener the few times that they have done it, and he's kind of got knocked around in two of the opening starts, and then he pitched really well against San Diego. The third one, maybe he's not the answer for that, but you know what? I think we kind of took care of that by saying, well, maybe it's a bullpen day, and this is going to kind of go away now because they're starting to get pitchers back, and even one of the other things that we're going to talk about in this episode is a potential free agent that's available or potential trades that could happen. So I don't know if you want to keep talking about this, Brad, but I think we kind of actually ended up agreeing on this now that we've kind of talked it through and got all the facts on the table and our stances.
Let's just put it this way, though. If we don't agree, if we both agree that Chad Green shouldn't be the opener, who else are you going to put out there?
That's the thing. I don't know. If Cessa was the Cessa that we had in spring training, I would pick him and I would have him pitch 2 innings because he's capable of pitching 2 innings.
Well, Hale's pitched good lately.
Maybe he's the answer. I don't think you can pin it on one guy. I think you need to mix and match. And I think Chad Green, who pitched a scoreless inning tonight against Toronto, 1-2-3, by the way, I think he's better suited for getting his act together and pitching later innings as opposed to an opener. Maybe someone who has starting experience but isn't necessarily going to give you the length. Maybe that's the kind of guy you want in those emergency bullpen games.
Chad Green was a starter at one point. I always thought that the Yankees never gave him a fair chance of getting into that rotation, but they usually know more than I do. So,
well, you don't know. You don't know what's. I mean, maybe Chad has bought into this thing because he can throw with higher velocity coming out of the pen, and he's throwing less pitches, and he's become an asset until recently out of the bullpen.
Yeah. So sticking with the rotation, why don't you just hop right into Dallas Keuchel?
Yeah, let's do that because this could be a lengthy chat. So you want to start us off here?
All right, so right now the Yankee starting rotation has been dealing with a lot of injuries, as we were just discussing. Maybe rather than having a bullpen day, you get an actual starter. James Paxton, CC Sabathia have just returned, but CC's going to go back out of the DL. It's just
it's inevitable.
Gio Gonzalez, he's pitched well for Milwaukee. Basically, the Yankees paid Gio to rehab him for Milwaukee, which is weird. He recently has also actually gone on IL with a dead arm, so I don't know. He's made a difference.
Maybe in a sense where if they pitched him in that time that they were using an opener, he would have served his purpose.
Yeah.
And then they could have released him. And then now with his dead arm, you got all these other starters coming back. Boom. He did what he needed to do, or what you signed him for to start. So we don't need to talk about Gio and his stats. We pretty much summed that up. He's on the IL. So yeah, maybe they did dodge a bullet in the sense where he wouldn't have been a long-term solution for this season. But if they kept him a little bit longer, he would have served his purpose and when they needed a starter. But like you said with CC, it's a long season. He's already been on the injured list, twice this season? Has he been on twice?
I don't know about twice, but definitely once, and he's going to be back on soon. Soon at some point.
His health is too unpredictable, and then you got Paxton, who was already an injury risk, bringing him in. He's healthy now, but you keep your fingers crossed and hope that he can stay healthy for the rest of the season. What about J Happ, Brad?
Well, he struggled, although he did pitch well against the Red Sox, I'd say. But he's struggling with teams like the Orioles, which is weird. He's not the J Happ that we remember from last year. So you wonder if he is the pitcher they thought they were acquiring. They acquired him. If they knew J Happ was going to struggle this much, maybe they would have pushed a little bit harder for Corbin. I mean, that's what I'm thinking.
It's possible.
So combining Happ with the injuries, there seems to be a void there that could be filled by a guy named Dallas Keuchel, who's still sitting out there unsigned. And by the way, that draft pick penalty is now gone.
Yes, that's right. As of Sunday, I think it was. both him and Craig Kimbrel can be signed now without the team losing a draft pick. So that was one of the reasons why he kind of didn't get picked up last month or fairly recently. But the other thing is that he also wanted a lot of money. He was still looking for a long-term deal.
Right.
Into the start of the season, and teams weren't willing to give him that. And he wanted around $25 to $30 million annually. But, that's not going to be how it is. So Houston apparently offered him a 1 year, $15 million or 2 year, 24, and he turned them both down. And now I forgot who said this, but he's looking for a prorated deal for 1 year to the value of the qualifying offer, which a 1 year qualifying offer would have been $18 million. And I think that comes out to be prorated around like $12, $13 million. So that's kind of where it is right now. And like you said, draft pick compensation. You want to talk a little bit more about some of this other stuff on here?
Yeah. So one thing about Keuchel is if I don't know if it's on here or not, but I'm going to throw it in here anyway. If he signs a 1 year deal instead of a multi-year deal, and next year he'll be a free agent, but he won't need that qualifying offer. So he'll be a real free agent technically. So he can just it's kind of open market for him. So in the offseason, like you said, Houston made the qualifying offer and he rejected it. Houston fans were upset about that. They really wanted him back. They wanted Astros to try harder for him back. He's expecting to sign in the coming days. The Yankees are the favorite from everything I heard on MLB radio today and on MLB.com. The Yankees are the favorite. They just have to figure out the money. According to John Heyman, he has potential landing spots. Other ones are Rays, Twins, Braves, Cardinals, Brewers. We're all rumored. Braves are noted as a favorite as well, and I will agree the Braves could really use him. The Geo injury is enough. Brewers need him. I really be afraid of the Rays getting him just because Keuchel always pitches so well against the Yankees. But that is a real landing spot. And then Twins. The Twins, even though they have the MLB's best record right now, they have some pitchers that could easily get pushed out of the rotation for Dallas Keuchel, and I think it'd be fair. So there's a lot of potential landing spots for Keuchel. There should be a market there, but you also have to think that Keuchel probably wants to get on a team ASAP, and he did say he shaved his beard, so you got that going for you too. So I think we're going to hear an answer sooner than later. I don't know. At the beginning of the season, I didn't want him, but I think he's better than our options now. So as long as the Yankees still try to upgrade the rotation at the deadline and that this isn't their savior, then I'm good with it.
I agree. I think you sign him. He's a former Cy Young winner. He has a career 3.66 ERA. He's a lefty. He keeps the ball in the ballpark. I try to sign him. I would try to sign him for 2 years, maybe try to get an option out of him. He's probably not going to do that, and he'll probably end up being a 1 year prorated deal. But he's come down in price, so maybe this would be an opportunity to sign him for another year. But again, like what you said, he'll probably want to test the free agent waters again next year. Just to mention, last year he went 12-11 with 3.74 ERA in 34 games started. He threw 200 innings and he had 153 strikeouts. He's a career 3.66 ERA. He's a solid pitcher. He had a decent year last year. It's kind of crazy that he didn't get signed, but I think maybe he may have overvalued his market than what teams were looking to pay him.
And he's a contact hitter. You have to remember that he's not a strikeout pitcher per se. He is a contact hitter. So you got to have a good defense around him. And I don't know about the outfield, but the infield wise, the Yankees are a pretty good defensive team.
Well, you figure if they sign him, he probably needs a week or two to get his bearings, and then he'll be in the big league club, and he probably only makes 1 or 2 starts without Judge and Stanton, and then they'll slowly come back, and then that outfield defense gets significantly better. So I would sign him. Pitching's pitching, can never have too much pitching, and like you said, they need to try and make a deal at the deadline to get another pitcher from one of these other struggling teams. So, Brad, we'll skip the part whether or not we would sign him. Obviously, we want him. But it has been mentioned that they might try and go out and acquire a pitcher. So which pitchers should the Yankees try to target via trade?
I have 3 guys on my list. 3 guys on my wish list. I'll start with the most unrealistic to the most realistic. The one that the most unrealistic, the one I want the most, is Max Scherzer. I don't care what the Yankees give up for him. You're pretty much guaranteeing a World Series in my eyes if you have Scherzer in that rotation. So you'd have Severino, Paxton, and Scherzer and Tanaka, who pitches great in big games. Those 4 guys in a postseason 7-game series, forget about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Next one down, secondly, I'd want Bauer. Trevor Bauer, I love his attitude, his quirkiness. It's something that the Yankees need. Kind of like a David Cone, because David Cone was always a weird, intense guy.
And he's very cerebral.
Very, very.
Both Cone and Bauer. So could benefit from that.
Bauer, he's a strikeout pitcher. He's very studious. He loves analytics. Is what the Yankees are all about. I think adding him to that rotation, that's not as much of a foregone conclusion as Scherzer, but it also would be a huge upgrade. And then third guy on my list, who is probably the most realistic, would be Marcus Stroman. I like him because he's a New Yorker. He's competitive. He's very streaky. He's hot and cold. But if you can catch him pitching well, like everyone seems to do, like you take a pitcher from a team like Toronto or like a Verlander from Detroit, and you throw him into a pennant race like Verlander was with Houston, they seem to upgrade their game. And
they come to life.
That's what I think Stroman would do for the Yankees. So I think Stroman's the most realistic, and I wouldn't mind him.
All right, so you already mentioned that you would give up pretty much anything to get Scherzer. What do you give up for Trevor Bauer?
You know what? I don't. Cleveland's been hesitant about taking back Frazier, but I don't see why they wouldn't. The only injury Frazier had this year was that weird ankle one that he did himself by sliding back in the second, feet first. And Cleveland's concern about Frazier was his injury risk. So I'd offer him Frazier. I'd offer him a couple of young arms. I don't know what else they want. I mean, I'd probably give up a lot for Bauer. At this point, Yankees are built to win now. Okay, I mean, you got to give up prospects now.
That's true. So I'd give up Frazier. I'd probably even try and throw in Maben, just because Cleveland's desperate for outfield help, and then maybe like a mid-level pitching prospect and a low-level pitching prospect. But I would give up anything for Scherzer. Like you said, he's basically going to be. He would be the Justin Verlander of 2019. He would ignite the team, the rotation. He would be everything that we've always wanted. Anything we've always ever wanted in an ace, quote unquote ace for this team. So I'm.
Right. Do you give up Andujar for either of those guys?
Yeah, I would.
I would too.
Mm-hmm. You got LeMahieu. He's your insurance, and he's proved that he can play anywhere. So if you have to give up Andujar for a stud like Scherzer for 3 years of Scherzer or 2.5 years of Scherzer, do it.
Going into next year, if the infield was LeMahieu, Didi, Torres, Voit with Urshela as your backup third baseman, and LeMahieu as your backup everything else, I'm fine with that.
Me too. 100%. That is a solid defensive team. So, yeah, other names that have come up that could be potential targets are Corey Kluber, Danny Duffy, Aaron Sanchez, and Madison Bumgarner. None of which I would want, especially Mad Bum. He's way past his prime. Now, maybe he becomes like a Verlander and becomes a completely different pitcher in a new location, but I think the Yankees were on it.
That's what everyone said about Verlander when people were talking about the Yankees getting Verlander 2 years ago. Everyone said Verlander is not what the Yankees need. He's older. Yankees are going younger. And look what he did. So.
And you always have his experience in the postseason. He's been one of the best postseason pitchers of all time. So who knows, if you put him on a pennant race team and get him in the postseason, he could revert. Maybe not as dominant, but definitely a solid rotation piece.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, anyways, with that said, we had a ton to talk about this episode, and we really slimmed it down. But I think we got across all the points that we needed to.
And what were your three? If you had to pick 3 guys for the Yankees to get, what were they?
The same ones you would pick.
Okay.
I think I want Scherzer at any means. I love Trevor Bauer for the same reasons that I love David Cone. He's a little kooky, but he's cerebral, and get him in the same pitching staff as Adam Ottavino. I think the two of them together could come up with something crazy.
Would you take Bauer over Kluber, or am I on there?
I would take Bauer over Kluber. Okay. In the sense that Kluber's on his downside. He's injured also right now, so you won't even get him back for a couple months. And no, I would take Bauer. And then Stroman, just because he's got that tenacity, that fire that could help ignite give the rotation some energy. Yeah, I'm in agreement with you.
Well,
The only
let's hope they do something.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I would love to see Kluber and one of these three guys in pinstripes come season end and have a formidable 4-man rotation going into the playoffs.
Keuchel. You said I'd like to see Kluber in one of these guys.
Oh, sorry. Keuchel. Yeah, not Kluber. Keuchel. Yep.
Kluber,
right,
Keuchel,
so,
Kimbrel.
Yeah, all K's. Too many K's. Too many consonants going on there. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up episode 20. If you like what we talked about, if you have any comments you want to add, please feel free. We'd love to get a conversation going about these things. I think they're all interesting topics. So let's see what you have to say, please. I'm not begging you, but do it. Comment, respond, let us know what you think.
We're that hot girl. Come find me.
Is this your new closing for every episode, Brad?
Come find me.
Yep, because we're out there on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. Just come find us by searching Yankee Chatter. We're out there. We are out there.
But seriously, it's been fun being back on this. I hope we can do it more recently or more frequently, and spread the word, subscribe, all that fancy stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Greg Andriano at Greg Andriano05 on Twitter, and you are?
I am Brad McCormick at BradderChatter1 on Twitter.
And this is Yankee.
Please, actually, at me.
We want them to add us, Brad. We want them to add us. But seriously, thanks for joining us. Let us know what you think, and have a great night. And most importantly, go Yankees.
Go Yanks.